I did want to, because I actually don't know much about you. And I was actually curious. Why do people keep calling you the human pet guy?
Oh, that. A few years ago now, I made a thought experiment in an ethics debate, and people took it out of context. It would be like calling Schrodinger the cat poisoner, or calling Jonathan Swift the baby eater, because of a thought experiment.
So wait, so you don't actually have a human pet or want a human pet, but it was like a thought experiment and people just rolled with it?
Yeah, it was a thought experiment. I wouldn't have room where I'm currently living for human pets.
Imagine dapping him up and bringing it in for a hug. He looks like a really kind man. I wonder what type of pet he'd like to have. Ladies and gentlemen, today I bring you a former Tumblr lolcow now turned Twitter reply guy, the Cybersmith. In short, you can probably search up the term human pet guy on Google, and you'll probably find a post or two about Cybersmith's weird desires. For the long version, you better stay tuned for the rest of the video. Cybersmith is somewhat of an internet personality who gained notoriety from his unusual postings on Tumblr, Reddit, and his Twitter. I'm not even a national socialist. This list is fake news! Also, Divus, you really should unblock me, if only for the sake of your own mental health. It isn't good for the soul to hold grudges like this. Yes, I discuss my carnal fantasies about kidnapping, castrating, and sexually enslaving you. We're both adults. Get over it. From this one post, you can already sort of gather everything you need to know about this kind of man. We're not dealing with someone usual here, we're dealing with the Cybersmith. Cybersmith is simply not just a troll. He's transcended into a higher plane than the average person. He's far above you, as you are above an insect. So, what makes Cybersmith an interesting deep dive? Well, like most lolcows, Cybersmith thinks of himself as an intellectual, someone who offers their 2 cents on situations, even when it's totally uncalled for and objectively wrong. I am once again asking you to understand that children exist. But did they exist where and when this carving was made? You are demonstrating a form of bias, assuming that other cultures and contexts must be identical to yours. Maybe the society which produced this didn't have children. Only giants. What you are thinking is exactly right. You just witnessed a classic Cybersmith moment where he enters into conversations to give his contrarian, uneducated opinions on topics he has no nature being in. In order to go about these stupid points, he has to sometimes conjure up scapegoats to make his own terrible takes seem more valid. Another is when leftoids dismiss evidence of dragons by claiming they were just dinosaur bones. No, there weren't dragons, it was just square cube law-defying impossible tyrant lizards who rules the world for literally tens of thousands of years before a space rock liberated this earth from their cruelty. You believe in dragons now? Do you not? Why does every single human culture, except for some of them, but let's overlook that for simplicity's sake, seem to have stories about humans interacting with them? He blames the leftoids for dismissing evidence of dragons, all while dismissing evidence of dinosaurs. He goes on to debate how dinosaurs are goofy because they have feathers, and says he wants real dinosaurs that ruled over the world like dictators for 200 million years. He then gets told the truth about dinosaurs, to which he freaks out about hollow bones and the Tyrannosaurus Rex name. Did I also forget to mention that he's extremely right-wing? They dare? Those commie weevils dare? Crush them, Donald Trump! Break their cowardly spirits! They and their descendants shall languish in obscurity beneath the shadow cast by your great colossus formed in your mighty image. Americans, do not let them arrest your beloved leader. I like a lot of what Mr. DeSantis is doing, but he's a damned fool if he thinks he can defeat someone like Mr. Trump. Ron DeSantis is a capable statesman. He can enact sound policies. Donald Trump is a messianic figure. I would kill civilians and burn their homes if he asked me to. Cybersmith is a Trump supporter to the extreme degree, defending him so much so that he even became a meme when he interjected himself into a conversation about bump stocks to defend Trump, where he said a spear would do just as good. With most right-wing people and their freedom of speech mentality, we also have his opinion on saying the hard R. Despite looking like this, Cybersmith is not afraid to share his fetishes onto his page. Some include his fat fetish, his diaper fetish, his trans fetish, his Asian fetish, etc., etc. For the love of God and your sanity, do not scroll through his page like I had to do. There's fetishes I discovered that no normal human should ever agree to. Which is what leads to probably why you clicked on this video in the first place. When you Google human pet guy, you come across Cybersmith, and there's no missing it. So, what's the story behind it? A user by the name of Uncle Father on Tumblr said, "Me wearing a dog collar and leash looking up at my man friend in his trench coat and fedora. Let's go out in public where he can walk me like I'm a dog in front of people who are visibly uncomfortable." To which Cybersmith replied, "It's not a flippin' fedora, it's a bowler hat." And then he segued the conversation into saying, "Anyway, with regards to the original post, what would actually be wrong with that? There's no mention of public nudity, nor of treating the human pet in a way that would be considered strange for a dog. Should people be obliged to modify their behavior so that the irrationally prejudicial do not experience discomfort?" To which someone else replied, "Irrationally prejudiced? Motherfucker, admit you have a pet play fetish. There's no shame in it on this website." Cybersmith then goes on to say, "Okay, just please consider the following scenario. It's 5 to 10 years from now. You're sitting in a restaurant enjoying a lovely meal. When I walk in accompanied by my wife, my children, and my human pet, whose genitals are covered as it enters on all fours and is wearing underpants. If my family and I then make an order of our own at the table next to you, in what way have we infringed upon your freedom? What rational basis do you have to demand that we leave our beloved pet at home? Heck it all, let's consider a more extreme scenario. It's 5 to 10 years from now. You're sitting in a restaurant enjoying a lovely meal. When I walk in without my wife and children, for whatever reason they haven't accompanied me, with my surgically modified human pet, wearing a collar being led by its leash. My pet has been sprayed, neutered, though you can't tell because his genitals, along with his boobies, if it's a female, has been covered up. It has no vocal cords, and its toes have been removed, along with its tendons and its ankles being severed. It may also have had its fingers and the last 2 segments of each finger amputated, making it easier to care for. No fingernails to trim. Perhaps I've even humanely removed its eyes, making it less independent. Even in this scenario, I haven't infringed upon your liberties. Irrationally prejudiced is precisely what you are." And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the first time Cybersmith has ever gone viral. People were shocked, people were astonished, people could not believe what they were reading. Imagine hopping into a restaurant to see this man with his human pet. It's unnatural, it's uncalled for, and most of all, downright disturbing. With over 40,000 notes on Tumblr, this quickly grew to become one of its most iconic posts, and thus shined a spotlight on Cybersmith. But since his unlimited wisdom wasn't being recognized by everyone, he came to say, "A regrettable fact, despite having worked for months to impregnate this website with the seed of my wisdom, the womb of Tumblr has swollen only with the out-of-context mockeries of my person, and a throwaway comment concerning Ashley Ray's frontly jiggly bits. Alas, when I shower the denizens of this domain with the glorious benediction of my thoughts, I find the uterus of the internet is barren." After spending most of his career on Tumblr, Cybersmith branched out to touch on topics on both Reddit and Twitter. His Reddit became more of an unconventional place for his rants, to which people would just commonly refer to him as a human pet guy. On Twitter, however, it was a bit different. Running on his 3rd account now, it was hard to find archives of his old tweets. But what I do have is the reason why he got suspended in the first place. Villainesbian on Tumblr posted the following: "I am a legend. The human pet guy got his Twitter account suspended over a weird trans hue cow indentured servitude fantasy of his. He then made another account, so I just egged him on to recount it again. It worked. Enjoy the thunderlash of instant karma. Could you explain again what it entailed? No one appears to have screenshotted it, and I'm dying to know the details, or how devices even fit in there." Well, there are a few things you need to understand first. Are you familiar with the concept of a trade deficit? When imports of a product outweigh exports in it? Bingonium! Well, the UK has a trade deficit for dairy. We really ought to produce more of it internally. Okay, second important concept, how much do you know about transgender people? Specifically transgender women for this particular topic. I know a thing or two about trans people. Okay, splendid. Here in the UK, there's a political kerfuffle over who should pay for transgender women's transition procedures. Hormone, surgery, voice training, etc. Some say it should be banned. Some say it should be a private expense. Some say taxpayers should pay. Final background fact, almost any human with intact mammary glands can be induced to lactation via a regimen of chemicals. Okay, so with that in mind, I propose a plan. An agency will be created and swiftly privatized. The agency would provide upfront whatever affirming care a UK citizen trans woman wants, then after some initial recovery period, if extensive invasive surgery was performed, the process of repayment would begin. And then he goes on to give his whole thesis about indentured trans women lactating for dairy purposes for some reason. He seems to be really into this, and he's had facts about it for a while. I don't know why this man... I don't know if this man is real, to be honest. And that is why Cybersmith was suspended on Twitter, and why his account only has a join date of November 2022, with still over 33,000 tweets. Some notable things about his Twitter: through there we found his obsession with monarchies, even going on a bit of a weird hysteria when the Queen died. Other notable interactions are the ones he has with Jenny Tightpants, Deathcore on Blue Sky, and Juniper. With Jenny Tightpants, he's always actively trying to get booby pics out of them, even going through their media to do so. Cybersmith is currently going through my media tab, in a friendly way, much like a concerned neighbor who hears a thud from next door, and walks over to determine if aid is needed, and in hopes of seeing boobies. With Juniper, she's usually interacting with him on a comedic approach, often giving a LOL when necessary. With Deathcore, it's much more so a nihilist approach on taking on Cybersmith. Instead of being put off by his unusualness, Deathcore interacts with him the same way you would as if you were talking down to a child. So what makes Cybersmith's human pet post relevant in 2023 after 6 years of it being public knowledge? Well, to tie it back to the beginning, a post was made that said, "Imagine dapping him up and bringing it in for a hug." And this became many people's first introduction to the man known as Cybersmith. People throughout the thread opened for this goofy looking man and was left with existential dread. It's not uncommon to see absolutely insane takes being thrown out on Twitter, but there's almost absolutely a certainty that those takes do not involve human pets. And that is the story of Cybersmith, an unhinged, non-intellectual who wishes for human pets and to lactate trans women. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, comment what you think about it, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on quality content like this. Well, that's all folks, peace.